May a day never come when freedom is merely a theme, when we don't break chains every morning like a good stretch and yawn, and when we don't look at captivity, blow a kiss and say we are gone. May a day never come when Nshima is no longer cuisine, when we no longer use 5 fingers to grip 5 fingers and the scent of Matibeto no longer lingers. May a day never come when Christianity is merely routine, when Sunday mornings are daunting and sermons surmount to pastors being predictable. May a day never come when our mother...
Hello people, welcome to yet another episode of The Other Side ZM. This is Rossi Robert and I'm joined by Musenga Katongo. Musenga, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very interesting. You finally got my name right.
Yeah, got it right. And I hope I don't mess up this time.
Awesome.
Yeah, now who's Musenga Katongo? Tell us about yourself.
Alright, so I like to consider myself a creative entrepreneur. Okay. That I use my creative skills in order to create value for other people out there. So in doing that, I find myself dabbling in different things. So I'm a spoken word artist as well. Mm-hmm. I'm also an event manager. I also do a whole bunch of other things, like copywriting as well. And yeah, I'm also an author. To say just a few things that I do, but basically I like to concentrate on the writing aspect.
Okay.
So that's why
you write books, songs.
Well, not songs, but I mainly
poems.
Yeah, I currently write poetry and fiction as well. Okay. And I'm expanding my interests. I'm also trying to get into writing for screen, like screenwriting. I'm also trying to get into different kinds of other writing for theatre, for stage and the like. So yeah, that's what I'll generally call myself a creative entrepreneur and a writer.
Okay, cool. Most people might not ask, but I know they're dying to find out your marital status.
I'm very single.
Very single. Most of the times, the question that people tell me to ask, like, please ask our guests if they're taken, single, married, whatever.
No, I'm single by government standards.
Government standards,
yes.
Okay, but there's some.
Of course.
Great. Yeah. Now, Musenga Katongo is a Christian, of course. How did he start his journey, the Christian journey?
Well, I guess it started way back when I was in 5th grade, especially growing up in the Catholic Church, where I was exposed to lessons at church which allowed me to learn more about God and about Christ and everything. So from there, everything just began to blossom and grow. So,
okay, great. So you grew up in a Christian home and used to go to church. I know a lot of people, they've grown up in that background in Zambia, but when did you finally meet God? And which year would you say I met God around this time? And since I met him, my life has not been the same.
Well, I would say that it's been a journey of different kinds of encounters and meetings, because as I said, it started first when I was in 5th grade, that's like 2008. Mm-hmm. But then I guess growing up and learning more about Christian faith and learning more about God did come when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. So especially around 2013, that's when now I gave my life to Christ. So ever since then, it's just been multiple encounters from that point.
Okay. Musenga, many might know you as a poet. Okay, you do a lot of poetry and I've seen you. What inspired you to do poetry?
Okay, cool. So this one day, there was a group that was called Please Don't Snap back in 2014 that came to my high school. So when they came to my high school, that was Material Boys Secondary School. Mm-hmm. They performed and I was blown away. I just really loved what they were doing and I was like, I want to try this out. Mm-hmm. So back then I was more interested in hip hop. So I was writing hip hop lyrics and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But then when these poets came through, that's when I decided to now try out poetry. And I wrote my first poem, which was called The Magic Box in the Living Room, which sucked, but it was what got me into writing poetry. And from that point, I started. So it was that thing of being inspired by the performance which I saw.
By sucked, you mean that your first attempt wasn't good?
Yeah, very much. Because the sad things, I can't find it anymore. I remember looking around my room trying to find it because I wrote it on a piece of paper. Yeah. And I've kept a whole lot of my poetry from back then safe, but it seems I didn't really keep that too well. And I don't remember it being any good. But from that point, I just kept getting better. So So yeah, that's how my poetry journey started and how I got inspired into it.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Do you get inspiration from other sources? Apart from that, like, do you have any other people you look up to who have inspired you to continue writing, art, and stuff like that?
Plenty, because I think when it comes to poets who inspired me stylistically, I would say I've been really influenced by poets like Propaganda, because the way he just has this way of writing and expressing himself is something that I really wanted to latch onto and learn from until I could forge my own style. So I learned a lot from Propaganda. I've also looked up to so many poets within Zambia, such as Jesse Sofu. I've looked up to Destro. I've looked up to the Bearded King, Chaya Deep, and even my own colleagues have started now learning from the fellow poets who I work with. So one person who's also really influenced my writing is a poet named Forrest, because I really enjoy the way she writes. And I was like, I also want to learn to be able to manipulate words like that to really invoke emotion. So I think that's some of the influence that I would say has been that I've had over my writing.
Is your poet only Christian based or secular, or you mix? How is it?
So what I would say is that I like to write conscious work and overall stuff which has a positive message. So generally you find that my poetry doesn't necessarily lean towards very explicit Christian messages and the like, but rather a more positive and more conscious approach. So you find that in everything I write, there's still an overall message that someone's meant to carry away with, walk away with. Not necessarily just saying, oh, this is poetry for poetry's sake, you know what I mean? But overall, making sure that every piece of art that I put out there is going to be able to better someone's life, because I feel there's one thing which I remember someone asked, not me directly, but a question which was just put out there generally. I think it was by Bizo. It was, if you had the whole world's attention for 5 minutes, what would you say? So now, in that case, every time that you are reciting on stage, you have people's attention for 5 minutes. It may not be the whole world, but it is a group of people who are listening to what you have to say. So what are you going to do with it? So generally, that's why I try to always make sure I drop something that's impactful and is going to be able to encourage people. And overall, I'd also like to say that I'm majorly influenced by Zambian history, especially because one really big aspect of my writing is trying to bring out different parts of Zambian culture and Zambian history, so that I can be able to just showcase that we have our own we have our own stories, and we have our own identity as Zambians, which we can be able to communicate through our poetry. And yeah, that's what I would say influencing.
Okay, all right. Now, do you just find the perfect place and just sit and words begin to come? Like, I try to imagine, because writing poems is not that easy. It's just like writing music and writing books. Some people might prefer an environment where they're quiet, they're seated, they're taking some juice and something, Other people, they decide to go to the mountains, quiet places. Wow, how do the words just come up?
Well, I usually do like I hope on one leg whilst looking for the chair. And after that, I usually wear a hat inside out.
Why is that?
It helps the words come.
Oh,
but overall, basically, when it comes to my writing, I think I don't usually require a special place or situation. I think I've practiced it long enough for me to be able to write in any situation, especially if the topic that I'm writing on is really inspiring. So, maybe I might have a dry spell, maybe moments or days or weeks even, when I can't really have very creative concepts and really good ideas. But then when those good ideas do come and they do hit me, I'm able to make sure that I put in the time and the effort to make it really artistic and technical. Because one poet, who I actually should have mentioned earlier as one of my influences, Magnify. I remember he asked me a question. I remember I wrote it up, I think he forgot that he asked this. But in 2019, he asked me if you were ever asked to do a lecture on poetry in Oxford, or at Oxford, whichever, what would you say? And then that really kind of hit me. It's like, I've been writing poetry for this long, but I don't feel like I'm able to actually give a technical aspect or a technical talk about it. So that's when I decided to dive into the technicalities of poetry writing. And that's when I started to learn the different types of poetry, the different types of rules, the different ideas behind it. And that's when I was like, there is a lot that, we just run away from, because as poets we like to write what's called free verse, which doesn't have rules. But then when you go to the poetry which has rules, you're able to learn the rules so you can break them. So I decided to do that. I decided to learn all the rules, break them consciously, and also I feel it adds a particular style. And when I got the chance to go to Scotland and I was asked to do a workshop on my poetry, it was actually very refreshing and an affirmation for myself that as I was giving the workshop, I wasn't just saying, from your heart, write what you feel. No, it's like, when I wrote this line, this is what I was thinking. I created this pattern. And that way, as a poet and a writer, you become equivalent to a painter. Because a painter knows when you mix this color, you get this. When you stroke the brush like this, you get this kind of image. You know what kind of texture you want, all those things, all those technical things. But then as writers and as poets, sometimes you want to shun the technical things, thinking you will still be able to create good art. So overall, I would say the words come because I've practiced, and I've reached a point where the technical sides of it are able to just flow. Because some people say, no, when you learn the rules, it interferes with your creativity. I'm like, if that's the case, you haven't mastered the rules. Because when you master the rules, that's when you'll be able to flow very well and you'll be able to create something very beautiful. So yeah.
Do you think it's an art that one can just easily learn and adapt to, or is it just for special people?
Well, I think it's for anybody. Because one thing about poetry, as I said, there's different types of poetry. So it's now about finding what works for you. So the biggest mistake anyone can ever try is to be like somebody else. Someone may listen to my poetry and say, I'm going to write like Musenga. Or I'm going to write poetry like Moyo Onkos. Or I'm going to write poetry like Cheesy, or like, these different poets who are out there. Because you haven't identified what works for you. You can start like that to get started, but you shouldn't end there. So I feel like it's not something which is restricted, like it's only for people who know English, for example. Even if your strength isn't English, you can still write really good poetry in whatever local language you're comfortable with. So overall, I think it's not something for specific people. It's for whoever is willing to take the time to actually learn it and practice it.
Do you pick particular situations? Maybe, for example, God forbid, you have a heartbreak. Would you pick that situation and you just come up with something from it?
The number of poems I've written about people, you do not know. Because I've written so many things about experiences and people, and the beauty about it is finding a very nice way to cover it up so it looks like you're talking about something else. The inspiration is an actual experience.
An actual real situation.
I've written poems where, like, even as I'm writing, like, I'm writing with this person. From start to finish, It's just describing this. But then, obviously, you wouldn't want to be in that position where, like, hey, you did this poem about this person. It's so obvious. So you just find a way of being able to communicate it. So you are satisfied that you've expressed yourself, but you haven't put yourself in an awkward position where you now have to start answering questions from people like, what happened? You know what I mean? So I've written multiple poems about my experiences, and that's what I would say. Like, any experience that I've had, especially one which was really, maybe whether it was painful or whether it was a great experience, has had a chance to be written out in poetry. And depending on how important you are in my life, you will find that there are a number of poems written about you.
There are a lot.
Exactly.
A lot. Now, so some people might be wondering, say, do you need to be good at English? Because, English is like Zambia's official language. And most people, they might get discouraged writing poetry. Because they don't know how to express themselves well in English. And how is it? Do you can do it in any language that you're comfortable with?
Any language.
Any language.
Because one thing, poetry at the end of the day is about communicating a particular message and emotion using words. One said it has to be English, one said it has to be Spanish, Portuguese, it can be Bemba, it can be Nyanja, it can be Lozi, whichever language you're comfortable with. Because I remember when I was in Zimbabwe, I participated in a poetry slam, and in the finals, I went up against this other poet whose poetry was purely in the way.
Okay.
He's there reciting, I have no clue what he's saying, but the audience is going wild.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh my gosh, what? And then there was this other Zimbabwean lady who noticed, like, I was getting confused, and she's just like, I know you can't understand what he's saying, just not beautiful. And for sure, he managed to communicate to people something beautiful in his language. I couldn't understand it, but they could. So overall, if his strength was in the way, he had no business trying to recite in English. So if someone's strength is Bemba, it's now a matter of getting good at reciting in Bemba so that you're able to communicate your message and communicate the emotions that you want to get people to vibe.
Okay, great. What are some of the organizations that have been there, like, to back you, and the places maybe you've performed at, maybe internationally, what level?
Okay, so in terms of organizations, I would say first and foremost, Loud Inc. was one of the organizations that really helped me out when I was starting. By then it was called Young Voices. It's currently run by Mwakemumba, who was actually one of the people who believed in me and two other of my brothers who are also poets, Lutok and Wale Mirunga. He believed in us when we were in, that was 2016? Just a trio of guys who finished grade 12. Remember, this was 2015, which we finished our exams. Now, like, hey, let's go do this poetry thing, And then we showed up by that time, Mwakemumba was still with Bittersweet. And he inboxed him on Facebook, like, no, we're poets and all that stuff. Then he's like, okay, come for the Bittersweet show. Let's hear what you have to do. So we did like this mini audition before the show started. And he liked what we had. And he started putting us on, So that belief in us was one of the things that helped us get started. So he started Young Voices, and then we changed into Loud Inc. And that's one of the organizations I can't leave out of my story. Beyond that, Bittersweet as well, because I remember in 2018, I won the Bittersweet Slam in 2017, which really boosted my confidence and my desire to learn more as a poet. And 2018, that entire year, Bittersweet was really just giving me a bunch of opportunities to perform. And they sent me to Zimbabwe in 2019 February to go and represent Zambia. So I can also leave them out of the story. And beyond that, I would say that Alliance Française is also another organization that has really been helpful to me, because especially after I formed Color Culture, Alliance Française has basically been like a second home. The director, the current director there is really open, he's really open-minded, friendly, he's very welcoming, and all the ideas that we want to pull off as Color Culture, he's really open to them. And he's helped push for us to make sure they come to life. And so I would say those are some of the organizations that have really pushed me to where I am.
Okay, at what levels have you performed as a poet? Maybe at which platforms? International, locally and international?
Okay, let's see. Because I've been around. Like, I think every now and then when I sit back and think about it, I'm like, okay, wow, that's a lot. Because I've been to Bittersweet, as that was one of the platforms I performed at. I'm trying to go by years.
Okay.
That's 2017. 2018, mainly Bittersweet again. 2019, I got to work with the British Council in Zimbabwe and a poetry platform in Zimbabwe called Page Poetry Alive. Really amazing people. I got to work with them. So that was, and through working with them, I created relationships with poets in Botswana, Mozambique, as well as in the UK. After that, I got to go to through Word Smash Poetry, another organization that has supported me, I got to represent Zambia in Bulawayo. That where I won the Universal Poetry Slam. Got to make a whole lot of other friends over there. Alliance Francaise again, I won their talent show in the poetry category. So there's that particular situation. 2020, I think 2020 is when I got to be on BBC twice. So I was interviewed on BBC, and then I was also performing at a festival that was organized by the BBC. But because of COVID, it was not last year. 2020. Because of COVID, I had to do it virtually. But nonetheless, it was still an awesome opportunity for me to interact with poets and an audience in the UK. Then, fast forward, if I forget anything, fast forward, last year I was on TEDx Osaka, which was a very surreal experience. Earlier last year, I was on former President Edgar Chagwalungu's poetry contest.
So that
it was a very interesting experience. Came out second. Then this year, I got to be on the Edinburgh Fest. Actually, participated in 2 festivals. The Eye Festival, which was taking place in Scotland. Physically, so I was on that this time, not camera video.
Okay.
Then the Edinburgh Festival Carnival, where I performed in front of the biggest audience of my whole career, which was 5,000 people in Scotland. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
So far in your journey, what challenges have you faced, and how have you been able to overcome them?
I think the challenges I've mainly faced, they revolve around just having people buy into some of the stuff that you do. You know what I mean? Because the beauty of it, I have had the privilege of working with a beautiful team, right? But then every now and then you realize that you're in an environment such as Zambia, which is still struggling to appreciate art. Like certainly within the poetry fraternity, we still have so many ways in which we can grow, and so many ways in which we can become better and more valuable towards the mainstream entertainment. There are so many ways in which we can do that, but I guess cracking that code towards getting there. Because well and good, there is myself as a poet, but then there are so many other poets who I would love to see growing to a point where each and every one of us is able to cross Zambian borders and be able to showcase the talent and the skills that we have within here. But then those opportunities are a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? So that's why I like to say that whatever opportunity one gets, if it doesn't trickle down to other people, it's useless. Because opportunities we receive, especially in a space that we're in, like in Zambia and in Africa, should not only be for our benefit. They should somehow trickle down to other people. So even when I've had opportunities of going abroad and meeting different people, all those relationships I'm creating are going to trickle down to other poets and other creatives. And so far, a lot of other people and a lot of other poets would vouch and would attest to the fact that I've done what I can in the relationships that have been developed, but then there's still so much more that needs to be done. In overall, there's the aspect of even developing the industry as a whole. Because even though I may be saying this as a poet, I'll look at a musician and say, musicians, you've got it better. But musicians are also complaining. There are things which are not okay. Then the artists, the visual artists will be like, are also complaining. You know what I mean? So overall, I think the entire creative industry really just needs particular policies as well from a government level, which can allow us to really thrive, whether it's in the form of different kinds of things like they are determining what could be the minimum amount particular artists can be paid for certain things. How can the government also be able to influence people to say the artists should be involved in so and so that every particular activity in a certain sphere can have artists involved. How can, and not just the government, but even the private sector, you know what I mean? How can the private sector also be able to look at the value of poets and not just look at them as, these are just entertainment, you know what I mean? But then the creatives are the ones who are behind so many of the things that the private sector does. So how can they also come to realize the value that artists have? And then the artists themselves as well, being able to believe in themselves, develop their own skills, and also adapt and learn whatever business skills they can, so that they can not just be artists, but creative entrepreneurs, adding value in whatever they do with their skills.
Great. Now, having been listed as one of the 100 among the 100 men who are, or 100 personnel or people who are influential in Zambia, how does that make you feel?
Interesting. When I found that list, I remember, I don't know, someone shared that list, and I saw it on my timeline on social media and Facebook. And I looked at it, I was just looking at the pictures, like, oh, let's see who's here. And I see my picture, I'm like, hey, I'm there. And I think first it's really humbling that I will be considered one of the 100 people. Especially look at the other names on that list. I'm like,
big names, eh?
Put me next to this person on the same list. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the people on that list are people I've either met and admired, or people who I admire from a distance because I haven't even met them yet. They're just out here like, I hope I can meet you one day. You know what I mean? And to be on the same list as them was really humbling. So overall, I think it affirms the work that I do, that I'm actually, that what I'm doing is actually being recognized and seen, and that it's actually proving to be valuable, so that I can actually be considered for a list like that. So it's really awesome.
Great. Having won the poetry slam in Scotland and also performed at Edinburgh. Is it Edinburgh?
Edinburgh.
Yeah, and also getting the recognition from the First Lady of Zambia, Madam Tinta Hichilema. How does that make you feel?
So, firstly, when I went for that slam, I remember walking to the place because it was near where I was staying, where I was accommodating. I'm just there like that's what it is. But you tell yourself you're going to win, but there's that kind of thing, like you don't really think you win. You know what I mean? Like as each round was progressing, because there were 3 rounds, I was actually the highest in terms of scores. Like I was the highest scoring poet in each round, and I was getting surprised each time. I'm like, like they're saying the points, and then they say Musenga Katongo last, like this number of points. I'm like, hey, okay. Then eventually, by the 3rd round, I was like, okay, I think I've done this. Because it's that thing where you even know what you prepared, then you hear everyone else and you're like, oh, this is nice. And I won, and I was super excited. I was like, this is the 2nd time I'm winning a slam outside of Zambia, because I would really love to rack up as many slam victories as possible. But it's getting a bit funny because I'm now the guy they will call to organize the slam. So it's like, guys, I want to win as well. You know what I mean? But otherwise, it was really an awesome experience. And then performing in Edinburgh again affirmed the work which I do, because it showed that my work just doesn't appeal to a Zambian audience, that even people on a whole different continent across the ocean can be able. Is it across the ocean? There's probably a sea somewhere between Scotland and Zambia. So it just was really affirming that my work can actually be appreciated by people from a whole different continent. It's not just Zambians. And that I didn't even have to change much of it, Like, obviously, those poems which have very strong Zambian references, which they wouldn't understand, you leave them. But the work which I would recite here and was also able to resonate with them over there. So it was really great that happened. And even when the First Lady shared that thing, I was just like, guys, this is too much. But nonetheless, I was really humbled, and it really just makes me want to keep working hard and keep doing what I can for the poetry community to show them that, guys, it's possible for you to create work that's relevant beyond the African borders.
Great. Let's talk about the color culture. What's the color culture? Elaborate. And also you being the founder, that's about it.
So Color Culture is basically an arts organization I founded in 2019. It's all about creative storytelling. So I've been telling and writing stories ever since I was in grade 5.
Okay.
Actually grade 4. I've been writing stories and everything. So being a storyteller is something that's been with me since.
Been a part of you.
Exactly. So color culture feels like a manifestation of that, because when starting it, I didn't really have a really big idea of what exactly it was going to be. But the more that I've worked with it, and the more I've worked with people in it, the more I'm starting to see that it's a platform that's meant to showcase African stories and give creatives and writers and poets a platform in order for them to be able to tell these stories. Because there's that saying which people talk about, like for as long as the lion does not tell the story, then the story is always going to glorify the hunter. So now this particular organization is me trying to see how exactly the lion can tell their story, you know what I mean? Because different things influence starting it, but overall it's just how can we be able to tell Zambian stories? How can we be able to showcase everything that we have as Zambians through the arts? And that's kind of culture.
How many people, how many members does it consist of?
So that's a very complicated question. Because it's not a club.
It's not a club, yeah.
No.
It's an organization.
It's a platform.
It's a platform.
So meaning that I can't say that we have 100 people, we have 10 people.
Yeah.
We have this particular project, we have this particular story we want to tell. These are the people we brought to tell the story. So asking how many people are there wouldn't be, I don't know, it's a difficult question.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, because one thing is I prefer to work with different people as often as possible so that everyone can have an opportunity. And overall, I would say we work with different creatives across the board, whether it's poets, writers, visual artists, dancers, musicians. Overall, it's about telling a story.
Okay. Do you think poetry in this country receives the much support needed? And if not, what do you think must be done?
So I would say that poetry, I wouldn't say that we receive the best support that I would love us to receive. Support could be different ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we say support, we always think of
financial support, yeah.
But then it's also about whether people actually engage with that particular work. And I would say people do engage with poetry. People do actually enjoy it because it's been featured in different programs. It's been put on different platforms. So I would say there is that consideration of it. But then overall, in order to thrive, there isn't really that platform or that means of thriving in it, if I was to put it like that. So as a spoken word poet, you have to be creative. You have to be diverse in whatever you are actually doing. You have to be on your feet to be able to actually create value out of it. So in terms of the support, I would say we're not where I would love us to be, but I would say that we're slowly getting there. And that's what I would say.
Okay, you're at the University of Zambia?
I was.
You were? Okay. What did you study in, and do you plan on going on with that path, the career, and how do you plan to balance?
Okay, so I graduated from the University of Zambia this year. I always get confused. You graduate when the ceremony has happened, right?
Yeah, the graduation ceremony.
Yeah, I graduated this year. My exam was last year.
Yeah.
So what happened? I studied business administration. Started in 2018, finished it just this year and everything. And as far as what I would want to do, I would love to further my education. Most people will be like, no, creatives, you don't need school, shanshani, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's no point. But then I think it comes back to what exactly your goals are and what you have at your disposal. Some people don't have the privilege of going to school, other people do. Some people don't have the privilege of furthering their education, others do. So for me, I'm trying to now create the opportunity for myself to further my education because I have seen what I would like to achieve and it has particular requirements for me to achieve that. So the idea is that I'm not going to be performing on stage for the rest of my life.
Sure.
There's that foresight to say that there will be a day when I'm 50. And what will I have to show for it? because as creatives we can get so excited, like, hey, today we are jumping on stage. There'll be a day you can't jump.
Yeah.
Today you're dancing on stage. There'll be a day you can't dance. What are you going to do for that time? So really, I would love to further my education, particularly in business administration, so that I can just pave the path towards what I actually want to be with regards to using my skills and the like. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
How do you balance that? Because of course we've talked about a number of things that you do apart from just poetry. There's school, and now there are other things that you're pursuing, obviously. But how do you strike a balance?
So one thing is I don't. I actually wrote a poem about this because the poem is called To-Do List, because I've received that question so many times, like, how do you manage? And I used to ask that question to other people as well who I've observed. I remember asking Esther those questions, like, how do you manage school and these things? And then I discovered that, guys, balance, if there's a person who's achieved balance, well done to them. But I'm the kind of person who believes you cannot achieve balance. All you have to do is prioritize whatever you need to at that particular moment in time. It might work for some people, it might not work for others, but for me personally, what I've seen is that I was in school and I had this particular passion. So one of the things, and I was also being mentored, I still am mentored by Stephen Wade. One thing that he's mentioned is that when you pick this kind of path, something will suffer. But you now have to be very careful about what you're letting suffer. So
I hope it's not Madame.
No.
I hope you do save some time.
Of course.
Sure.
So you have that situation where I knew that I would never be an A+ student.
Why?
Because I had other things I was pursuing.
I get it.
I would do my best. I'd do my level best. But then I had that understanding within myself that I was only going to do as much as I would need to get to the next level and the line. So having that satisfaction, that decision to say, I'm going to work towards this. If I want to work towards getting A+, I know that there's stuff I have to,
things you need to forget.
Exactly. But then I didn't want to do that. So it's now actually deciding what exactly I'm going to prioritize and accepting the consequences that come with that. So if you're going to prioritize school, then you have to be ready to make a decision about other things. And then if you want to have all these things happen, you have to understand that there are only 24 hours in a day. But those 24 hours are still, it's up to you at the end of the day. At the end of the day, how you use them. So you might find yourself in a situation where your friends love to maybe go out and have fun. They want to maybe, I don't know what kind of friends people have, but people have different types of friends. But then you have situations where you need to make a decision yourself about what exactly you're going to use your time for, because you know what you want. So does that mean you're balanced? Awesome if it does. But I don't know. I feel like it's just, pushing towards, it's more like, like when you're on a tightrope, if you feel yourself leaning more like this, you have to do something about it. Otherwise you fall. So you just keep making those decisions. When you keep noticing, like, okay, here things are not working, things are not okay, you just keep going about it like that. And if this is balance, cool. But I don't think it is. Because I feel like balance is you're just moving, but then you're just making adjustments as you're moving towards your goal.
There are times you feel like, maybe I've neglected this part of me, and then you quickly shift your attention to other things.
Yeah, but then of course, not being in a position where you're jumping from everywhere. You know what I mean? I think one other important aspect is marrying the stuff that you do. So if you're, for example, I'm a writer, right? I can't start thinking of being a chef. And then after thinking of a chef, I want to be a soccer player. Those are three totally different things which have three totally different requirements. But then I was doing business administration, and then I was also a writer. So I married the two by saying I'm going to use the skills I'm learning in my class to see how I can create value out of my writing. And even forming Color Culture, which is a company, is now me applying the business administration skills and then tying it with my writing skills and applying it in my company. So everything is now just like flowing into one thing. So I feel like balance becomes a big issue when you now start trying to pull so many different things that are unrelated and forcing them to work. But then when you can be able to say, okay, I do videography, let's see, and then I'm also a writer. What if I start maybe doing videos of me doing whatever kind of writing it is? Or maybe I could be doing tutorials of writing, I do my own videography, for example. Those are different fields, but you marry them together. And then applying those in different scenarios and towards different things. It gets more complicated when you have someone maybe who's studying medicine and wants, natural sciences may respect them, I'm just like, you guys are there. But I still feel like at the end of the day, it's all about finding that balance where you are leaning this way, and when you realize you're leaning too much, you make the adjustments. So you're constantly adjusting as you go.
So, like, how would you describe God's?
Whoever follows that advice, do it at your own discretion.
Don't owner's risk.
Yes, don't follow me. No, Musenga said this, it didn't work. Me, I told you what to do.
Being an influencer, obviously, people who are watching say, "I'll go with that." Well, how would you describe God's involvement in your journey so far?
Well, I think overall it's been an issue of me not fully even understanding like where I deserve any of it, And I guess that's where the concept of grace comes in, because there are times when you start to feel like there's just this favor where you're like, okay, this is actually working better than I thought, and other people may try it and it's not working as well for them. So overall, I think I'm really grateful that God is able to look into just offering this favor towards in my life for me to be able to even do the things that I'm doing, and also to just overall have the experiences which I've had where I interact with so many other people and I'm able to share my gifts with them. And overall, that's what I would say.
Okay, so like a lot of people might be thinking, say, they look up to you. Let's just say they watch your every move and they get inspired. Say, I want to be like Katongo. What would you advise them?
Watching every move.
Yeah, watching every move. You're like, I follow this. When people are following the person, they get inspired. Like, for example, just talk about one of the known people in the currently, one of the influencers. For example, Diamond.
Yeah.
I think there are people who follow her, like whatever she does, whatever she posts, everything, her dress code, everything, people follow it. So obviously you've got people who are following you. I'm sure you're thinking you're not as big as you think you are, but obviously people who are following say, okay, I want to be like him. Like, what would you advise them? What would you tell them?
Well, I think what I would say is it's great to be inspired. I'm inspired by so many people. There's so many people who I also want to be like. And I think it's just being careful towards that, because you don't want to lose yourself in that particular situation where you become a clone. It's great to learn, it's great to be inspired, but inspiration is not like, it's not cloning, it's not mimicking. Inspiration is basically, I heard this and it has driven me to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I see somebody has built a house, it doesn't mean I go and ask for his plans and then I build the exact same house. If I've seen that, it now drives me to say, I want to build my own house too. And I'll do it like this. Papa, if I ask for advice, how did you build your house? And he tells me, I did this, I did this, I did this. And then you go do it. Instead of the idea that you now have to have a complete replica of that house for you to feel like you've actually done something. So I would say being able to learn from whatever you experience by
Watching you every move.
And being able to pick up what you can, and also forging your own path, knowing what you want, knowing what exactly makes you happy in this world, and being able to run that path and bring it to life.
Okay. So where do you see yourself in the next few years? At which level do you say that, okay, when I reach this level, at least I would have done something?
Let's see. Well, overall, I would love to be in a position where I am in, It's basically a position where I can do the things that I want without having too much red tape involved, because I have so many ideas, but then I either lack the resources, the relationships, or the skills to do them. But in the next few years, I basically would love to see myself in a position where I've furthered my course in doing that. I know I'll never be able to do everything. You know what I mean? Like in terms of skills, like do all the things. But rather being in a position where when an idea comes, I know who I can bring on board. I have the resources to pull it off, and I have the skills to make it something that's amazing. So overall, that's what I would say.
Okay, right. I'm sure our viewers out there, you've learned quite a lot in as far as this show is concerned, because our guest here has explained quite a number of things, and we've picked up quite good points. We've come at that time of the year where a surprise quiz.
Hey,
But a surprise quiz, just 5 questions.
it's already.
In case you didn't know, yeah, it's a surprise. We just try to test your Bible knowledge. So, 5 questions. Only. You ready?
I don't feel ready about
Most people are not ready. Tell me when you're ready, but I'm sure you're ready. Just 5.
Okay, let's go.
Be good. Okay.
They're not hard, right? They're not hard, eh? What for? What does the
I think they're
Isaiah
basic.
52 say?
No. Very basic. Whose wife turned back and turned into a pillar of salt? So it's easy.
Lot.
Lord, great.
Okay.
1 out of 5. I see you're doing well. Okay, in which book did the Red Sea part?
Exodus.
Exodus. 2 out of 5. He's doing well, guys. He's doing well.
I feel like it's going to be that.
Most definitely.
No, 7 churches in Revelation. I can tell
I see
you.
it. Okay. No, not that. I think we'll just keep it average.
Okay.
Because if it gets real high, see, it was a surprise piece. I didn't manage to get into it. But okay, all right. Which leader succeeded Moses after he died? Joshua. Great. I think I'm giving him easy question. What do you think, guys? Okay. The longest book in the Bible?
On this book, Psalms.
Psalms. Okay, how many chapters does it have?
150.
Did you get it right?
Is it 150? It's 150. You're making
Congratulations. You got 5 out of 5, right?
Cheers, man.
It's been fun. Thank you for coming to the show. We're glad to have you. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Glad to be here.
On behalf of my crew, guys, I'm out. Peace.
Trava-se